Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, has a history spanning more than 150 years. From its small beginnings to today's record-breaking rides, discover the fascinating story of this historic park. Named for its abundance of cedar trees, the first public bathing beach opened on the point in 1870. Visitors could pay 25 cents for the short boat ride from Sandusky, in what was recognised as the first commercial tourism at Cedar Point. Popularity steadily grew, and with it came added offerings for visitors. Numerous bathhouses, beer gardens, dance halls and wooden walkways on the beach. By 1888, a grand pavilion had been constructed at Cedar Point. This building, still standing on its original location, featured a 2-storey auditorium and concert hall, bowling alleys and dining facilities. The construction of this pavilion marked an effort to operate the peninsula as a public resort. In 1890, the first amusement ride was opened at Cedar Point. This water toboggan consisted of a simple ramp that launched riders into Lake Erie. The first roller coaster was installed 2 years later. The switchback railway stood 25 feet high, with an undulating track that reached top speeds of 10 miles per hour. The bench-like cars being manually hauled to the top at the conclusion of the ride. The Indiana-based Cedar Point Pleasure Resort Company spent $256,000 in 1897 to purchase the peninsula. George A. Bocklin was quickly appointed as the park's manager. Bocklin is credited as being instrumental in the transformation of Cedar Point, taking a picnic ground and expanding it to become a nationally recognised amusement park and resort. The coming years brought more construction to the resort, including the historic Hotel Breakers in 1905. This 600-bedroom hotel was one of the largest in the Midwest. Despite not being a priority for Bocklin, at the same time the number of amusement rides was also increasing. Under his tenure, numerous roller coasters were constructed, demolished and replaced, including the Figure 8 Railway, Dip the Dips, Leap the Dips, Leapfrog Railway and the Cyclone. The coasters were accompanied by other classic fairground attractions. The Great Depression brought a slowing of expansion, and by the late 1930s, the park was on the brink of being sold to the state of Ohio, with the decaying Leap the Dips roller coaster being removed. Following World War II, the park was in financial trouble again. The boardwalk was cracked, and the Cyclone was rotting, leading to its demolition in 1951. The removal of this ride left Cedar Point without a roller coaster for the first time in over 50 years. By 1957, the peninsula had been acquired by a group of investors who set about freshening up Cedar Point. The current causeway opened, making vehicular access easier, and $1.2 million was spent in the late 1950s on improvements. Hotels were repainted, new admission gates were installed, and the Wild Mouse roller coaster was constructed. The 1960s brought an increased emphasis on amusement rides. The success of Disneyland and other similar amusement parks pushed the expansion, and during this time rides that are still present in the park today were constructed. Named after local high school sports team the Sandusky Blue Streaks, the oldest operating roller coaster at Cedar Point was installed. 5 years later, Cedar Creek Mine Ride debuted, utilising a then revolutionary tubular steel track design. The roller coaster has gone on to become a park classic and started the era of steel coasters. Becoming the world's first roller coaster with 3 inversions, Corkscrew opened at Cedar Point in 1976. Spectacularly spanning the Midway, this groundbreaking ride was followed by another record breaker 2 years later. Racing Ride Gemini opened as the tallest, fastest and steepest roller coaster in the world. The park was gaining a reputation for adding cutting-edge rides, and this momentum didn't slow, with the opening of Demon Drop in 1983. This first-generation drop ride was quickly followed by Avalanche Run, a bobsled coaster, and Iron Dragon, now the oldest operating arrow-suspended coaster. In 1987, operating company Cedar Fair was made public on the New York Stock Exchange, and funds from this were used to construct the next headline attraction. Magnum XL 200 took the record for the world's tallest roller coaster when it opened in 1989, and was the first ever roller coaster to break 200 foot, coining the term hypercoaster. Magnum XL 200 further ignited the public's interest in roller coasters, and is credited with starting the period known as the roller coaster wars. Magnum's success paved the way for numerous record-breaking rides at Cedar Point. Subsequent roller coasters Mean Streak, Raptor and Mantis all claimed height and speed records. The highly competitive industry at the time pushed Cedar Point to break the 300-foot barrier with Millennium Force in 2000. This was followed only 3 years later by Top Thrill Dragster, pushing even further and reaching heights of 420 feet. During this time, families were catered to with the Camp Snoopy area, but thrills were the main focus of the park. Roller coasters were supplemented with massive flat rides, Power Tower, Max Air and Skyhawk. The early 2000s brought the end of the roller coaster wars, and against a challenging economic climate, a slight slowdown in roller coaster additions at Cedar Point. Despite this, standout coasters were still added. Maverick replaced the former Whitewater Landing log flume, with its double launches and beyond vertical drop. Then the addition of Gatekeeper Wing Coaster brought with it a completely redesigned entrance plaza. Dive Coaster Valravn in 2016 was quickly followed by Steel Vengeance 2 years later. Steel Vengeance used a significant portion of Mean Streak's former structure to create a much celebrated hybrid ride. For over 150 years, Cedar Point has been a destination for pleasure seekers on the shores of Lake Erie. The park continues to expand, with recent additions such as Wild Mouse and the reimagined Top Thrill 2 appealing to visitors of all ages.